Good morning, friends. Welcome to another Monday Morning Music with Matt. I'm Matt Greer. I'm the music director here at St. John's United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, coming to you this morning from our sanctuary. And we've not been in here for the last couple of weeks because there's been, happily, a lot of work going on in the HVAC system, which both, when we're back live, will make us more comfortable and will also make us more safe because they've been addressing some of the issues around exchanging the air. So the project is far enough along that they're working elsewhere in the building. And so it's encouraging to see all of that happening. And St. John's folks, you know that we are on a schedule to open live for worship on a very limited basis in the Abide service in the Family Life Center on Palm Sunday. And then we're discussing when exactly that's going to happen for the sanctuary, but I don't expect that it will be that much later than the Family Life Center. Of course, it's going to be different. There are going to be, at the beginning, especially specific protocols that we're all going to have to follow. There won't be congregational singing, but I imagine that we won't have to abide by all of those for all of that long. And in the meantime, we're also going to be continuing live streaming. And so folks who are not ready to come yet worship in person have the option of continuing the live stream. And we're starting to work on all of that's going to mean to be able to do live worship in addition to keeping up all the live streaming that we've been doing and to try and do both well. So that's what's going on. I wanted to plug a couple of things coming up. Actually, one that just happened. If you were not with us for Jazz Vespers on Saturday at 5 o'clock, it was a really good one. And I would recommend going back and finding it on the YouTube channel and enjoying both the message and the music. It was really great to have Scott Sharp back with us, and Diana Hughes, Robert Law, Colin Dubel, and Cal Haynes, who are a regular house band, were just really terrific on Saturday night. So go back and look at that and know that all of those are just collecting there. You can watch them anytime you want. And then I'm really happy to announce that we're having the revival of our St. John's Bach project. And of course, all kinds of things got put on hold during lockdown, our regular Sunday afternoon concert series. But the Bach project is something we've been doing for about 5 years, and it's been quarterly, doing performances of those fantastic cantatas that Bach wrote and other music. And we have a new artistic director for that enterprise, who is Michael Hicks, who's been one of the singers involved in it from the beginning. And we are having our first live streamed Bach project on March 27th. So a week from Saturday at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. And it will be a collection of arias from cantatas and also from the Magnificat and some other pieces done by Michael Hicks, Ingela Onstad, some wonderful solo cello stuff from Joel Bechtel, and then Kristen Ditlow will be the keyboardist for that. So that's a week from Saturday, and we have that to look forward to. It's wonderful to be planning for things again. Okay, before I start to talk about our guest and invite him in, I just wanted to play something that I saw this week and enjoyed. One of the things about doing live stream worship is that you may get to see things more up close than you usually do. And folks have commented that they really enjoy being able to see Jim Arend work, both on the piano and on the organ. And of course, you can see not only his hands, but his feet working on the organ. This is a particular piece of music that was written by an American composer, William Albright, to show off not the manuals of the organ, but just the pedal board of the organ. And this is from a larger suite that he wrote for organ. This is called Totentanz, or Jig for the Feet. And this is a video that was produced by Preston Hollow Presbyterian Church in Dallas, Texas. They've been producing wonderful stuff from their sanctuary during lockdown. And this is their organist, who's Bradley Welch. This is the William Albright Totentanz. Hope you enjoy it. Isn't that cool? And so, Jim Arend, if you're watching, we would love for you to play that for Postlude on Sunday. Get on it. One other thing I'm going to play before I invite our guest in, and this is actually by way of introduction for our guest, John Helgen, who is a composer, a pianist, and a conductor in Minneapolis. And John is married to a wonderful professional singer named Robin, who also is a voice teacher in the Twin Cities. And for our Quintessence Valentine's Day Festival, we collected cabaret videos from friends all over the country singing love songs. And we invited Robin and John to submit one, and we're very pleased that they did. So this will give you a taste. This is Robin Helgen with her husband John on the piano singing, I can't remember, but we'll find out together. Here it goes. Robin and John Helgen singing "If I Loved You" from Carousel is what they were singing, and that's really, really gorgeous. I think it's very, very nice that Robin also allowed John to sing on that. Well, nice, maybe not the word. John Helgen is a good friend who lives in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. He's the director of music at Roseville Lutheran Church. He is a prolific and fantastic composer, wonderful pianist, conductor, and he is my guest this morning. John.
Hey, Matt.
How are you?
I'm great. Couldn't be better.
I'm glad. Nice to see you. What is it like in Minnesota this morning?
It's going to snow here today.
That's a surprise.
It's been actually very lovely weather here, warmer than normal, and all the snow has melted pretty much off the ground, but now we will have a little bit more. Spring is just upon us. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And hasn't it snowed for like the last couple of Easters? I know Easter's a moving target as far as a date, but isn't that true?
It was 2 or 3 years ago on April 15th, we had about a 15 or 20 inch snowstorm. So it's still possible.
Man, and you choose to live there. This is what is amazing to me.
I'm speechless.
Excuse me, I was just muting myself so that I could cough. I mentioned, John, that you're the music director at a Lutheran church in Minnesota. And I'm curious to know, because as I've been talking to other friends that are music directors, especially in different parts of the country, everybody's been kind of handling this differently. And now we're, of course, at a year. What has the worship life at Roseville Lutheran been like in the past year?
It's almost exactly a year that, in fact, I think March 8th last year was the last in-person worship that we had in our worship space. And so ever since then, we have been making a presentation each week for online distribution. We play it on YouTube off of our website, and then also on a local television station, just public access TV. And that's what we've been doing. We have had some outdoor worship services where we broadcast the audio on a FM radio transmitter with the power of going for 300 feet. So it's really an extensive broadcast. But people drive in their cars, and especially initially, there was still a lot of concern about people staying in their cars and not mixing and mingling. And when the weather was nice, then it was easy. They could still roll down their windows, and everybody seemed to be very eager just to be together in any way, shape, matter, or form. So we'll be doing some more of those coming up this spring here for Palm Sunday and Easter. And like a lot of people, I think we're just on the cusp of figuring out when we're going to be able to come back inside.
Yeah, we, thankfully, we've got great staff here who've been helping us through the technical stuff. And we have done some drive-in worship services using a transmitter that Jim Arend, our organist, came up with. And it is nice for people to actually just kind of at least get out of the cars even a little bit and mingle. What about for your choirs? What have you been doing to keep your choirs connected during this time?
Well, we haven't been rehearsing, obviously. I don't think anybody has. Some of the professional choirs figured out a way to do limited rehearsals after a while with masks and all sorts of restrictions on amount of time, and I'm sure you're familiar with. But we have just been connecting through Zoom meetings and Hangouts, and our church has been pretty active with communications throughout this whole time. And so we're just all waiting for the day when we'll be able to be back together. I've ordered a gigantic box of those little packages of Kleenex to put on each chair for the singers when we have our first rehearsal, because I think that we'll just sing one chord and then everybody will come unglued. So
yeah, I totally agree with you there. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. So, John, you are a composer whose music we have done a fair bit of at St. John's. And you have written, yeah, you're welcome. Some of it I've even purchased rather than Xeroxed. So yeah, that clock behind you is probably bought with royalties from St. John's United Methodist.
No doubt, no doubt. I think there's I'll put a plaque on it, actually.
Okay, yeah, I know. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So I assume you grew up singing and playing. And as I recall, you're a pastor's son. Is that true?
That is true.
And you grew up Lutheran?
My dad was a Lutheran parish pastor for 39 years in 3 different towns. And both he and my mother were musicians, and at least interested in music and singing, and so the music of the church was part of my, from early days. Yeah.
And so did you start first on the piano, and then did you sing in choirs, or what was your background before you got to college?
Yeah, I did start piano lessons quite young. As the story goes, I was a climber when I was a toddler, and I used to climb on top of the piano. And finally, somebody said, "You might as well just give him lessons because he keeps climbing up on top of it." So I think I might have even gotten lessons when I was about 4.
Wow.
I'm not really sure, but anyway, I was in the little town of Osakis, Minnesota, in west central Minnesota, and the local piano teacher took young students, so I started playing piano right away. I also was given a baritone ukulele maybe at some point, and I learned how to play ukulele, but never really guitar. And then I also started on the trumpet when I was of the age where band students started, and I've ended up being a baritone or euphonium player later on rather than trumpet player, but I've always been a brass player ever since. And so I played in the church, and I accompanied the choir, and I sang in the choir and played in the band. And small town, you can do all those things. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then you went away to college at St. Olaf.
Right.
And were you intending to study music when you got there?
Yeah, I definitely knew it was part of the picture. I actually arrived on the campus planning to major in chemistry. I was always interested in science, and so that was my initial plan. But I soon found that there were so many alluring musical opportunities that and I was taking music classes, as a first-year student there, and it just seemed pretty obvious that was where the energy was going. So I kind of became a music major pretty quickly after that.
And what was your major? Was it education, performance? What was it?
It was theory and composition.
I see.
So for all those people who hated theory and thought it was something they needed to survive to get that education major, that was my favorite thing. So kind of a nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we need those, obviously.
Theory nerd, as we were
we
called.
need
Yeah.
artistic nerds.
Yes.
And obviously, you have come to make your living writing a bunch of music for choirs. Was that the focus of your compositional studies when you were at St. Olaf, or was it everything? And
Yeah,
what kind of a grounding for that did you get?
It was anything and everything, and I was as always as interested in arranging music as I was in composing it, and that's still true today. And so, when I played in a band, and we came up with all these arrangements and recorded, a record album and all this stuff. And so, it was very, very widely varied there. And I don't think I might have written one choral piece when I was in college, but I do remember writing a vocal piece for somebody's recital. And they said, "Hey, I need an arrangement of something. I'd like to sing it on my senior recital." And then that later got sort of, morphed into a choral anthem. And it was the first piece I published as a choral anthem. So, yeah.
Wow. We're going to play a couple of examples of pieces of yours this morning. What would you have me play first?
I think you were going to play "Lift Up the Name of the Lord." Is that correct?
Oh, cool. Yeah. Tell us about this piece.
Well, this is a kind of a gospel style piece. The original of it was actually I was commissioned to write a piece by the Manitou Singers at St. Olaf, Sigrid Johnson. In her last year, about 5 years ago, she asked some friends to write pieces for her final concert. And so this was actually composed for the final concert of the Manitou Singers under her direction.
And that's a women's chorus, right?
A women's chorus. And it was actually the last piece on the concert. It was kind of a concert closer. So this was a kind of a gospel style. It's fun to write for a choir that's so capable. They could pretty much sing anything you could write for them. And so the performance is actually not by the Manitou Singers, but maybe the next year, Sigrid Johnson was the guest conductor of the Minnesota All-State Women's Choir, or SSAA chorus. And so they had a summer concert up at St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota, and she's conducting and I'm playing the piano.
And you're at the piano. Very cool. So this is Minnesota All-State Women's Chorus singing John's Lift Up the Name of the Lord. Enjoy. Very cool. You are, let me unmute you, sir.
It's a good choir, I said, yeah. The best.
That's a pretty good choir. And so that was a room full of parents, I assume, for the All-State Choir.
Parents and teachers, yep.
Yeah, and very cool for you to be able to play as well.
That was a great day.
We have done that piece at St. John's, as you have arranged it for SATB also.
That's correct, yeah.
And I remember comparing the SSAA versions and the SATB versions, and you had to do a fair bit of rewriting for that, didn't you?
Well, yeah, it's one step lower, first of all, although that didn't really change the piano part so much. But yeah, the way that choral voices and chords are voiced, between a treble voices and a mixed choir, you have to change things. You have to put things in different ranges and registers, and so it took a little bit of shifting around. But yeah.
You love to write in that style, I have noticed, because we have a lot of the pieces of yours that we've done, not all, but a lot, have been in a gospel style or a jazz style. You did an arrangement of Amazing Grace that we did with the choir right before lockdown that was in a jazz style that we just loved. And so have you always been attracted to those styles?
Well, yeah, I started playing a little bit of jazz in high school. But it really was in college that I kind of got going on it, and I had some friends that invited me to come and play in just a combo, and I really didn't know what to do, and everybody got to take a solo, and so you just had to make one up, and very improvisatory, obviously. Then after I got out of college, I had a job working in a church in North Minneapolis, and people from Albuquerque will know my pal Brad Ellingbo. He was the choir director.
I'm sorry, what was that name again?
Ellingbo.
Ellingbo.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Maybe you haven't heard of him, but anyway, we worked together at a church for a year, and then he went off to grad school at Eastman. But this was a church in North Minneapolis, and the makeup of the congregation was quite a mix of interesting ethnic groups and whatnot, and there were a lot of kids who listened to kind of a R&B radio station, and we were looking for music that they could sing that was, I guess you'd call it, the gospel music. And so I started delving into that as kind of a way to start accompanying and having music to sing in the church. and a lot of it wasn't written down, as you might appreciate about the folk song and gospel song traditions. So anyway, it kind of got to be something I was interested in doing, and I liked the style, the very rhythmic and improvisatory style of the piano parts in these songs. So it's something that I've always loved.
Have you ever been an organist, John? I don't know that.
I do play the organ. I studied that a little bit in college too, and I've never considered it my principal instrument at my church. We have a part-time organist, and I play maybe half the time, and she plays half the time. And so I am still playing the organ as well. Yeah.
You said a theory and composition degree at St. Olaf. And then you worked in a church, you mentioned, but then your career kind of went a different way. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, after being a would-be chemistry major, thinking about going into like medicine or something, then I got out into the world and decided that maybe being an itinerant piano player wasn't the best way to go full time. So I went to law school and practiced law for about 15 years before I gave that up to go back into the more lucrative field of church music. Yeah.
What kind of law did you practice?
It was a civil litigation firm, a small firm in Minneapolis. And yeah, so we were, we have the Chauvin trial going on in Minneapolis right now, the very famous it's a big news item. And so I was never involved in the criminal law or that part of the justice system, but this was civil litigation. So, yeah.
And were you doing church music as a side gig all those years?
I did have various part-time little church jobs. I was the choir director of my own congregation for quite a while, just as a volunteer. And then at some point, while I was still in law practice, I started playing at a church as an organist and piano player and accompanist, and eventually decided to make the shift and got a full-time job in church music after a few more years of that. So,
and are you happier? Are you nicer to live with as a church musician than you were as a lawyer?
I'm happier. I think I'm probably nicer to live with too. I guess you didn't know me before, so do you think I'm good to live with now?
No opinion. Well, I've never lived with you, John.
Well, that's true. And I wouldn't want to.
And I consider you a good friend, but I honestly hope that, who knows?
I hope that never actually has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've shared a house like for a few days together on vacation, and it's been all right, mostly.
Yes. I agree.
So let's hear another piece of yours. Do you want to, should we play Keep Silence?
Sure.
Tell us about this. What are we going to see?
Well, yeah, so it's funny how the music that you decide to write or arrange comes from some need, like a concert's coming up and you say, oh, I think I'll try to do this, and then you can't find anything. So you say, well, okay, I'll try to write something myself. And so I had always liked the very old classic hymn, Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence. And I was working with a really good recorder player, flutist, but he also played recorders and was tremendous. And I decided to arrange Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence for choir using piano and then also a recorder. And so it became a piece called Just Keep Silence. And this is a recording that we made just a little bit over a year ago when we were still singing in, actually, it'll be, a year and a half ago. Yeah. 2019 is only a year and a half ago, right?
Right.
For our Christmas concert at Roseville Lutheran, we had a guest choir with us from another Lutheran congregation. So we had a big choir of over 100 people, and we did Keep Silence with our little chamber orchestra.
Lovely.
So,
and that's what we're going to hear. This is John's piece, Keep Silence. Beautiful piece.
It's a little mellower than that last one. It's a little bit hard to hear because that was just taken from the balcony of the church I think it was on an iPad. But there's a kind of a wind chime that's softly kind of wafting in and out behind throughout the piece, and so it's
lovely.
Yeah.
And the recorder part on bassoon, gosh, what a beautiful sound that bassoonist has.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. It's do you enjoy orchestrating? It's really lovely colors in the orchestra.
I do. I particularly have liked writing little chamber orchestra arrangements for choir anthems and whatnot. I haven't done that much with big orchestras, but I find that if you have a string quartet and in this case we had a full set of woodwind players, but just one on a part. So one oboe, one bassoon, one clarinet, and one flute / recorder player.
Mm-hmm.
We've used harp a lot in past years too. It's lovely. And we have a brass group, and you can see the handbells over there on the side. They weren't on that particular piece, but it's a kind of a cast of thousands concert, as you are familiar with.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And so I assume that you write mostly these days on commission. Have you had much work for commissions in the last year, or?
I've had some. It's not keeping me super busy right now. If anybody's looking for a piece, I'm willing to talk to you.
Just put a note in the chat. He's cheap.
Yeah, it's I do. I primarily have worked with churches. I have one new piece coming out soon from Walton Music, which is a men's. I guess you don't say men's choir anymore. We say TTBB chorus. And so for TTBB, and that was written for a nice TTBB choir from Apple Valley, Minnesota, a couple of years ago, conducted by one of my friends. And it's a setting of Crossing the Bar, which is one of the last poems that Tennyson wrote. It's kind of a classic poem. And so I had that work. That was a couple of years ago, actually, before the pandemic, but it's being published now. And so I've got some projects I'm working on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's hear one more piece of yours, John. This is another arrangement, right?
Right. This is an arrangement of This Little Light of Mine. It has an interesting story. It's obviously not an original piece. It's a gospel song. And it started out as a children's choir arrangement, and it was published by Augsburg Fortress. And then over the years at the church, we made it into a worship band version. We have a big band at the church as well that plays jazz and stuff, and we made a big band arrangement of it. And then just a few years ago, I also made an SATB, mixed choir arrangement of it. And that's what you're going to hear in this recording by a very nice high school choir from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I like to point out that the piano player in this choir she's right in the pocket. It's really great playing, and the piece just feels just right. So hats off to the piano player.
Okay, always. Here's John's arrangement of This Little Light of Mine. Very cool. I don't know that arrangement. That's a great arrangement.
It's got this little thing I added in the middle. You know, it's one of those songs that really only has one little verse to it, and then it repeats with different words. A very simple little kind of folk song form. And so to make that into a little longer, hopefully more interesting piece, I added in a little section of my own as kind of a little, interlude between some of the verses, and it seems to work well, and it's become a favorite at our congregation to be sung at any of the different kinds of worship services by various ensembles or choirs or soloists or whatever. So.
Yeah, I can see why you mean about the pianist. I would think that I imagine you write piano accompaniments, particularly when you're writing a gospel style that you can play. Do you simplify them ever for publication?
That's a very good and interesting question. I think that it depends on, of course, who the composer arrangers are. I think that I guess I'm lucky in that I've been a piano player for so long, and I have figured out a way. I have a little bit of a methodology of notating music in that style that I also think is playable and accessible by, when you write music for choirs, the accompanimists are going to be all over the board from various backgrounds. Some of them are going to be organists. You have to write stuff that is authentic, but still can be played and isn't, doesn't require three hands as it's possible to do sometimes if you go a little bit too crazy. So yeah, it's something that I kind of work on pretty hard to make sure that the piano player is able to, and you might have a tambourine player or some other kinds of things playing along on these things, but if you don't, the piano player has to be able to hold the whole rhythmic thing in these fast up-tempo styles on their own. And so there has to be enough notes there to create the rhythmic background for the piece.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very
but
interesting.
not too many notes.
But not too many notes.
Just
right.
like in Amadeus, when the Duke, the Prince came and said, "So many notes, Herr Mozart." And
right.
Mozart says, "Exactly the right number, Excellency."
So that's your goal, is just the right number of notes. I think that's a noble thing to aspire to. Something that I meant to ask you when we were talking earlier about your college experience at St. Olaf is, were there any other, did you make any friends there who went on to any kind of careers in music or composing as well?
Well, I have mentioned Bradley Ellingbo.
Right.
Do you consider that he went on to a career in music, or?
I mean, I think he's made some money.
I believe he did, actually. So
yeah.
He's here to defend himself now.
Brad, how are you?
I was just going to finish answering your question, Matt, by saying that when I was a freshman, I played in the band, and the conductor there at the time was Miles Johnson, but a guy I was in the band with named Tim Marr became the conductor and has been an excellent conductor and composer for band music over the years. Brad, that looks really good. I don't have anything to eat right now, so I'm going to keep talking. And then after I was in the band for a year, I was in the choir, and later Mr. Ellingbo, known here as Greer's worst nightmare, joined the choir. Somehow he auditioned and managed to get in, and so we were one of our pals in the choir was Anton Armstrong, who then later became the conductor and is still conducting the St. Olaf Choir. So I've been lucky to know some really great musicians, friends, composers, conductors, yes, including Ellingbo.
Ellingbo.
What with the time change and all, I missed most of this. Would you mind going back and starting over?
It was like one of the best ones. I think it was certainly better than the times that you've been on. So, I mean, we'll check the ratings when we're done, but
Actually, I listened the whole time. I've been sitting here working at my desk. In this kind of platform that Matt uses, you're backstage until he puts you in. And then you've got a name that underneath. We see Matt Greer, John Helgen, and I put El Queso Grande, and then then he changed it while he was talking to you, El Queso Porqueño, and we finally ended up with Matt's worst nightmare. So, anyhow, good stuff, John.
Hey, thanks.
You should think about publishing some of that.
As I have said, I knew Brad before I ever imagined that I'd be moving to Albuquerque. I knew Brad's music, and primarily through the series that Brad edits for Chose Music called Music for the Church Here. And choir people that are watching, it's all the ones with the blue covers with the photo of that other church, the picture of that other church from in town on every single one. So you can't even say take out the blue one because it's like, which blue one? Because they're all blue. But John also composes and arranges and works in that series. And in all seriousness, that's really, really good stuff. Every year, the music that you all put out and select for that series are so helpful. It's good stuff for church musicians. So thank you for that.
I want to interrupt, sorry, in all sincerity, and say that John is now co-editor.
Thank you.
So since about 3 years ago, it has both our names on the cover, and I'm very grateful for his help and proud to call him my not necessarily, now we have to be careful at this age when I say somebody's my oldest friend, but I've got friends who are older than you, but my most longtime friend.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Also, Matt, I just want to say thanks. If they are blue covers, then you haven't Xeroxed them. So thank you for that.
Oh, he's got a color copy here.
We do color copies,
color copy.
which kind of reduces any savings that we might get by Xeroxing by doing color copies. But
color a page. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And so I would be interested to know, and other folks may be interested to know, a little bit about the process of putting that series together. Do you have a lot of folks who submit stuff kind of over the transom, as it were, that you then pass on or select? Or is it to a point now where we need another Advent piece, and so you kind of are inviting people to write stuff to fill those slots, or how does that work?
John, why don't you take that one?
I would say it's actually a little bit of both. There is certainly still stuff that comes in where people are sending in music to publishers and just saying, I wrote this, I arranged this, would you consider it for publication? And we have, of course, it's been it's 25 years, isn't it, Brad? This is about 24th year probably of the series. And so we've obviously met lots of people, and sometimes we've been able to go back to them and say, we really liked something you did before. How about sending us another piece? And hopefully they'll do that too. So it's both.
Yeah, it's, again, not entirely kidding. 25 years ago, I think 1996 was the first one. And Neil Chose asked me to oversee this series. And at that point, I was a quarter century younger, and I was proud that I knew these, established figures in choral writing. And I said, whoa, I can ask Ken Jennings, I can ask Lloyd Fouch, I can ask, so on and so forth. And he goes, those are all old guys. I'm an old guy. I know all the old guys. I need some young guys. You're a young guy. Go get some young guys. Well, now John and I are the old guys. So we have to go find some young guys. Yeah.
We just a few weeks ago, I was talking to our mutual friend, Taylor Davis, composer in Dallas, on this Monday morning. And Taylor has been out here, and he wrote a Magnificat for us that has been getting a lot of interest lately. But isn't it true that Taylor's first piece to get published that you published in the blue? what's it called?
Amid the cold of winter.
Amid the Cold of Winter.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a gorgeous piece.
Our mutual friend, well, Taylor is the son of Sid, and Sid and I were doing a workshop in 2004, and just at the end of that week that we spent together, felt like we'd known each other for 40 years, like John and I. And he said, you know, my son, I mean, gosh, Taylor was probably 20 at the time, has written this piece. And I think I can tell this now. He had written this for this girl that he was really smitten with. And I don't know why exactly, if it was her favorite hymn or something. And by the time it was published, they had broken up. But but there's a lot of love and tenderness in that piece. And I think it's
That's a perfect piece.
Yeah.
Amid the cold of winter.
Yeah, it's a really gorgeous piece. That's another guy who has a gift for melody. Well, I am now going to do one of my favorite things that I ever get to do. I'm going to remove Brad from the room. And before I do, Brad, thank you so much for this unsolicited guest appearance.
You're welcome. And can we tell him why I was eating cookies? Because of the
yeah.
My daughter took piano with Amy, and I snuck in in my Hagrid size, eating.
You all know, those of you that know the St. John's Choir Room know that one of the challenges of even running a rehearsal in there is that the entrance is right behind the conductor, as it were. And so it's always distracting, at least to me, when I'm facing the choir, having someone come in behind me. Well, Amy does her piano studio recitals in there. And so when the young pianists are there giving their recital, the room is completely filled with all the parents. And Kristen Ellingbo was playing on this recital, and Brad was late and just came in at the most ridiculously inopportune time. And had passed the reception table on the way in, picked up a cookie. It's like, kid is playing Indian love song, and here comes Brad Ellingbo, stumbling around behind her. So that's an in joke ever since.
Thank you, guys. Hey, great show. Thanks for having me.
Hey, anytime, but not next week. Well, John, I'm sorry that happened. I do apologize.
Well, I've put up with them for many years.
Yes. Yeah. I'll say a long time. So thanks for doing this morning. This was very fun. And I look forward to the time that my choir will be doing some more of your fantastic music. And I think folks have enjoyed getting a chance to know you a little bit, and maybe next year in Albuquerque. How about that?
That's right. Thanks so much, Matt. It's been a great pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, folks. Thanks for watching.